Hi YouTube, Darth here. Today I'm playing with probably one of the most underappreciated rocket launchers in the game, the MBT LAW. For the engineer, it's the very first rocket launcher in the game, and most players graduate to the RPG SMAW or SRAW. By chance, I recently started playing with this rocket launcher again, and I have to say it's quite a bit better than I remember it, but it still has its limitations. For starters, I want to talk about some of the changes that this launcher has undergone in the last few patches. The range and targeting cone at which the LAW locks onto targets has become much more forgiving. The LAW can reach out pretty far and is basically a homing missile for ground vehicles. This set of changes altered the weapon from being a short-range fire-and-forget rocket launcher to a launcher with real long-range potential, especially against fast targets on the move. And fast targets on the move are probably my favorite targets with the LAW. The LAW will one-shot any quad, motorcycle, or snowmobile, and because there is pretty much no warning, it's a guaranteed kill. This is probably the most satisfying and appealing use for the LAW. I highly recommend the MBT LAW on large maps like Silk Road, Giants of Karelia, or Operation Whiteout. The other relatively useful capability of the LAW is to peek, fire, duck, and reload in quick succession. This can really provide some withering fire against tanks, and it can be relatively hard to discover the location of the soldier firing the LAW if they are well hidden. But you're not going to bring down a lot of tanks this way, especially if they have support. At 3.3 seconds to reload, it's one of the faster firing launchers, but it's still outclassed by the SRAW at 2.8 seconds. Like the SRAW, it has the ability to lock onto lased targets, but unlike the SRAW, it does decrease damage against those targets. Rather than a full 50% damage against lased armored targets, the LAW will only do 30% damage. Keep in mind that the critical threshold against armor is 29% if it doesn't have reactive armor, and 39% if it does. So that tank could just keep on coming at you. One final advantage of the LAW is that it is incredibly fast. It travels at 125 meters per second compared to the SMAW with 110 meters per second. This makes it the fastest of the direct fire launchers, so it can be useful as a fun surprise against unsuspecting infantry. That's really where the benefits of the MBT LAW run out. It has limited ammo supply and very low damage. Because it's a top attack and homing weapon, the LAW always does 21 damage no matter the angle it was fired. So you can't get the benefit from attacking rear angles on tanks. Because soldiers typically only carry 5 rockets, this means you have to land every rocket on your target in quick succession to get a kill. Now you can mitigate this weakness somewhat if you're running the anti-tank field upgrade, or if you're near an ammo supply. But for the most part, if you so much as waste one rocket, you won't be able to take out any IFVs or tanks. Another downside of the low damage model is that the MBT LAW will never disable a tank or IFV. This is why you have to be sneaky about using the LAW. If the armored vehicle discovers you on the first or second shot, you're going to have to deal with a vehicle that has full mobility and is gunning for you. It's like trying to stop a charging rhino with a pea shooter. Yet another downside is that the MBT LAW does decrease splash damage against infantry, 67% of normal, so if you're trying to snipe with this rocket, you've got to be fairly accurate. I've had the most success with infantry that are facing off against me. Finally, the only way that the MBT LAW will track onto a target is if you fire the launcher while aiming down sights. The field of view for the launcher is quite small, and if you're trying to hit a fast-moving target like a helicopter that the launcher does not track, you're pretty much better off firing from the hip. And I gotta say, it's pretty awesome when you actually manage to land that shot. So what did I learn from my time with the MBT LAW? It really feels like a novelty weapon. You're trading your ability to disable and kill armor for the ability to pick away at it from relative safety and range. There's the added perk that you'll be able to one-shot light vehicles, but you could realistically just do that with small arms fire. However, it's far more satisfyingly hilarious to watch them explode from a well-timed shot. I definitely only use this weapon on large maps with light vehicles and long lines of sight. That's it for this video about the MBT LAW. Have you played with the LAW lately, or do you have another preferred launcher? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, YouTube.